Hey, welcome back to the Unbelievable Podcast. I am BJ Reidell, back here with my guy, Drew Mahowald, and today we are taking a look at a matchup for your Minnesota Vikings against the Baltimore Ravens. Vikings head out on the road after a embarrassing loss to the Dallas Cowboys at home at US Bank Stadium, and now they face arguably an even tougher challenge here. Definitely a tougher challenge if you consider the quarterback position. Lamar Jackson brings a host of issues that the Vikings have in the past not done so well with. So we'll talk a little bit about Lamar Jackson's mobility and his increased ability as a passer this season, along with the weapons that he has, including Rashad Bateman, who's back from injury and a former U of M player, which we'll get our first look at this season. So plenty to discuss here. And then, of course, we'll finish up with our picks here and give us a status report on where we stand. So that is the game plan for today's show. So let's start off with that man I just said right there, Lamar Jackson, arguably the most dangerous individual football player in professionals. Guys straight up can do a lot of different things very well. He runs 4.4. He's about as fast as you're going to find as a player straight line in terms of just overall elusiveness. I mean, I've never seen anything like it with the exception of maybe Michael Vick, honest to God. So, you know, he is a running back. He just also happens to be a very good passer as well. And so I think Emmanuel Acho was the one who said a couple of weeks ago or whatever that, why are we using the term running back as, a disability for Lamar Jackson when really, I mean, the fact that he's able to do that as basically a running back and also drop back and pass the ball as efficiently as basically anyone in the NFL, at least in recent weeks. It makes him one of the most dangerous players in the NFL. And good luck to the Vikings. There's no perfect way to stop Lamar Jackson. I don't think anyone's found the blueprint to date.
No, and I mean, the Vikings have struggled with mobile quarterbacks as it is.
Yes.
This is a different level of mobile quarterback to me. Lamar is, like you said, he's the closest thing to like prime Michael Vick that there is, except for the fact that the Ravens utilize their offense better to take advantage of that a little bit better, where Vick was kind of just scrambling around making plays when maybe the first couple of reads weren't open. The Ravens are making it a point to design runs where he gets in space, he can use his speed, maybe it's option plays, whatever it might be. So the discipline is huge. It puts a major amount of pressure on, those DNs or those outside linebackers to, be disciplined in their gaps and with that, because that's all they're going to do, right? They're trying to isolate these guys, kind of make that decision and defend a spot, in those option plays. So that's where, Lamar's been super efficient. You're looking at numbers wise in terms of passing the ball. He has 8.6 yards per attempt this year, which is very good. Then running the ball, 6.3 yards per attempt. So, I mean, right there, you can kind of just say overall, he's the most efficient offensive player in football. So clearly a very tall task ahead of him. And despite the, backfield issues that Baltimore has dealt with this season, they're still one of the best ground games in the NFL, 4.9 yards a carry as a team this year. So, and the Vikings stopping the run has been iffy at times. So this is a major, major challenge for sure.
One thing I want to point out about Lamar Jackson, too, is that for a guy that everyone thinks is going to get hurt on basically every individual play, he seems to be surprisingly healthy on a fairly consistent basis, which is pretty impressive and really beside the point, but just something I wanted to make note of. When you compare, if you do want to compare him to Michael Vick, the number one thing that you have to account for, like you said, is the fact that John Harbaugh has created an offense perfect for Lamar Jackson, whereas, like you said, Michael Vick was basically just kind of, if it's not there, I'm running. He was really good at that. But Lamar Jackson is basically, an ascended version of that because he has those weapons around him. He has a great coaching staff. He has, basically an offense that is designed only for Lamar Jackson. I don't think, and this is a blessing and a curse. It's something where only Lamar can run this style of play. And at the same time, if he gets hurt, which again, knock on wood, he hasn't, then you're in trouble. But the Ravens have built around him to the best of their ability. They're very good blocking up front, or I should say very solid blocking up front. They're not going to blow anyone away. This isn't, prime Dallas Cowboys offensive line or, something like that. But this is a very solid offensive front that's going to give him time to operate. It doesn't force him into being a run first player, with his athletic ability. I think that he's become a much better pocket passer, particularly this season, and through the duration of the games that he's played so far this year. He's become a player that is not trying to escape the pocket and run away, where he's actually looking through to that second and third read. And now he's got the options to throw the ball to as well. With Hollywood Brown, of course, the vertical threat that has had some drop issues and has really looked like Troy Williamson at times. But on the flip side of that, he's also looked like, I guess Troy Williamson at times with his burner speed going vertical and getting over the top of defenses and making things look really ugly. And Lamar's been able to get him the ball. On top of that, you got Mark Andrews, the tight end, as your safety net, and you've got Rashad Bateman, who I mentioned at the top of the show, who we're very familiar with, especially if you're a Gophers fan or if you're a Big Ten football fan. You can go up and get it with the best of them. You can trust this guy one-on-one with just about anyone. All of this spells problems. And I just noticed today that Cameron Dantzler did not practice. So the Vikings may be down yet another cornerback, and you've got the best version of Lamar Jackson, the passer, that I have seen to date coming in against you with arguably his best host of targets that he's ever had in his career.
Yeah, that was the thing I wanted to point out today too when we did this, was just it's taken a little bit for Baltimore to kind of build up the receiving weapons, that right. Lamar can really use well. Mark Andrews has been a great tight end option for sure. It's taken a little bit for Hollywood to develop. Of course, still has that drop issue against Detroit. It was really bad in that week 2 or 3 game where it was like so three touchdowns basically through his hands. But he has certainly come into his own. And I mean that, he has that burner ability, big play ability. Sammy Watkins, a veteran who's been around and has been on, championship caliber teams. And then, like you said, Rashad Bateman, another guy that, the Minnesota fans are very familiar with. So overall, that's a very, very respectable group of weapons there that Baltimore has. And again, then you maximize it through perhaps the most dynamic player in the NFL. And the result is, an offense that, it's tough to stop in general. And I don't see the correct formula here. Mike Zimmer's got his work cut out for him. I mean, straight up, especially with you're losing Daniel Hunter. You already have Dantzler, you already have Peterson out. You got Dantzler now not practicing. I saw Anthony Barr was also not practicing. So, I mean, Anthony Barr is one of those key players, especially
in this situation.
This situation where he's going to be isolated, and you need that outside linebacker position to make plays to kind of contain this offense. And it's going to be a struggle. I really think so.
So ultimately, if you guys remember, of course, the Baltimore Ravens lost their top 3 rushers, J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, and Justice Hill at the beginning of this year. And they've replaced them with 3 veterans in Latavius Murray, who, of course, we remember in purple and gold, very solid running back. Devontae Freeman, former Atlanta Falcon. And then, of course, Le'Veon Bell, who has traveled around the NFL since leaving the New York Jets. That's basically your backfield. And again, this is another situation where it's like, yes, you do not have the most dynamic rushers in the NFL anymore, with exception to your quarterback, of course, but the guys that you can turn around and hand it off to are all very experienced. They're definitely some of the most savvy, rushers in the NFL in terms of finding the right hole to burst through. I trust Latavius Murray, Le'Veon Bell, or Devontae Freeman with the best of them in terms of just maximizing the best opportunity. They may not have the breakaway speed anymore, but you're going to get efficiency from this group as well. So collectively, you've got some very high-end explosive weapons like Hollywood Brown and Lamar Jackson. You've got some kind of possession pieces, guys that are going to move the chains in Rashad Bateman, Mark Andrews. You've also got some goal line options. I think Rashad Bateman and Mark Andrews both fit the bill in there as well. This, to me, is not like a blanket defense situation. This is not a situation where you can be like, all right, we're going to drop back in zone and we're not going to let them beat us deep and we're going to win the football game. This isn't like that. This is like, stay disciplined in your gaps up front. Don't let them get past the second level of your defense. Otherwise, you're screwed. Because the one thing I will say about Lamar Jackson, for sure, this is a guarantee lock across the board. There is no player I would rather have one-on-one in the open field than Lamar Jackson in the entire professional football. And I can't think of anyone else in recent memory who truly electrifies the field and can get out of a dodgy situation slipperier than this dude in recent memory.
Yeah, he is one of those guys that it seems like he can take over a game just by getting himself into open space. So that's the thing. Tackling is going to be huge, not missing those easy tackles converting on those kind of open space tackles for those cornerbacks. For sure. I know, again, Lamar Jackson in space.
There's an element of luck to it as well.
about the toughest task there is. But yeah, you're right about that. And then for one thing, making sure that these other guys don't beat you, these kind of, I don't want to say washed up because that's a disrespectful term, but that backfield that is more or less past its prime.
Definitely.
Latavius Murray, Le'Veon Bell,
That's
Devontae Freeman. I mean, that would be a heck of a fantasy running back, team to have in 2015.
Yeah,
that'd be perfect, right? Yeah. Latavius Murray had a big year that year. Devontae Freeman, Atlanta, Le'Veon Bell. I mean, I would actually, I urge one of the listeners to go look up fantasy numbers from 2015 and see how those three stack up. I would imagine they're all borderline top 10 or better in that season. But yeah, I mean, when they do, like, you kind of have to almost in a way let those guys beat you. Like, focus Lamar. Again, he's going to get his, but I would, I'd prefer to let the ground game win this game in a way that you kind of want those running backs to beat you, that running game. But again, they scheme things up so well with their option stuff that it's talking to me about discipline, fulfilling the gaps, and making the open field tackles when you get those chances.
It's in addition to, being disciplined, like that's number one, right? Like, first and foremost, make your tackles, keep the short plays short. Don't let the short plays turn into long plays. Don't get beat over the top. Don't do anything stupid like that. That's just square one, right? You do all those things, you're in the ball game. Next thing here, and I really think in order for the Vikings to win this one, and to me, this is honestly, I'm basically making my pick at this point, but in order to win this football game, you're gonna have to force a turnover or two. Now, I'm not saying Lamar Jackson doesn't have the capacity to give you a rock. We've seen him throw interceptions. He's already got 5 fumbles this year, 10 last year, 9 before that, and he led the league with 12 fumbles his rookie season. There is the ability to knock that ball loose if you're able to get hands on this guy. He runs loose with the football. You can see him palming it with one hand sometimes. He does some Shady McCoy stuff in terms of
Shady McCoy. Yeah, he did
kind of running with the ball outside his pads.
Yeah.
There is an opportunity there. But I really do think that in order for the Vikings to win this football game, you're going to need that moment. You're going to need that game breaker moment where you get a fumble. And that means recovering it too, by the way, not just forcing it. He doesn't lose all of his fumbles. He gets on top of them sometimes as well. So you got to convert that type of opportunity, get an interception, do something like that. Otherwise, you just straight up can't win this game, I don't think. Because I don't think if you go 1-1, 1-1, 1-1 in terms of possessions, Vikings aren't going to win this game. You can't beat this team with the style of offense the Vikings are playing right now. They're the most aggressive team. I think John Harbaugh is at least top 5 in the NFL in terms of valuing analytics and using them to his advantage and going for it in kind of conversion situations.
Yep.
So you're up against it. You have to either change the way you play, which we've seen over the last 3 weeks. They're probably not going to.
Probably not happening. Yeah.
Or, good luck, because I don't think you're matching this team 1-for-1.
No, yeah, I'm with you on that. And then, I mean, I did want to bring this up, and this is kind of an aside where it's not the specific matchup per se, but the Ravens and the Vikings aren't that different. The Ravens have been this kind of defense first team over the years.
They're definitely known for that. Like, when you think the Ravens, you think
right. And offensively, you've thought of their ground game more than anything. Plus, prior to Lamar, they were kind of stuck with the high paid quarterback. And so the difference has been, Baltimore kind of took the chance on a new quarterback and obviously paid off in a big way. And then number 2, John Harbaugh does an excellent job of kind of, it's about the players first. And it seems like Zimmer and the Vikings coaching staff, it's a lot of kind of, here's what we're going to do. You will do this, instead of kind of like, I just think to the big 4th down play that Baltimore had against Kansas City in week 2, I believe, where Harbaugh basically yelled and kind of asked Lamar, he's like, do you want to go for this? And it would have clinched the game. It was a 4th and 2 or 4th and 1 in their own territory. And they would have instead, it's either pump the ball back to Patrick Mahomes, let him win the game, or get this first down. Left it totally up to Lamar Jackson. He said, yeah. And without a doubt, without even hesitation, Harbaugh was like, yep, we're going for it. Lamar got the first down. So it's stuff like that I just can't see Zimmer in any way making that move where he goes to Kirk or whoever else and says, do you want to go for this right now? And it's in your own territory, like at the 30-yard line, you're backed up and you got to get a first down to win from 2 yards. There's no way Zimmer does that. So I think that's the difference between the two teams and the way they're built, the way they're set up. Not that different, but there's a couple of key differences that have kept the Baltimore Ravens as the Super Bowl contender, or this team that can win 13, 14 games in the season versus where the Vikings are now.
Absolutely. And as you kind of keep an eye on potential coaching candidates and styles of, philosophies, or, just a brand that you'd be looking at, if you are in the camp that believes that Mike Zimmer should be fired, consider this. John Harbaugh, of course, a special teams coach before becoming a head coach. He did not have the most, I would say, natural path to getting the head coaching position. Generally speaking, you see guys that are innovative like Sean McVay, or highly experienced at a specialty like Mike Zimmer, or, the array of different other styles of kind of getting there. Kyle Shanahan, of course, being, an innovator, game-changing offensive mind.
Mm-hmm.
John Harbaugh, not like that. He's a true leader of men. And I think what he does better than anyone, and this is one of my favorite styles of coaching, is he just is a true facilitator. Everyone around him is extremely talented. He puts the offensive hand into the Greg Roman. He was able to design this perfect offensive system for Lamar Jackson. It's Greg Roman's baby, basically. And John Harbaugh just kind of steps back and makes the, do you want to go for it? Do you not? This is a true, group of coaches that are on board with, like, all right, I'm going to handle this, you handle this, whatever. And Harbaugh just takes the blame and that type of thing. So
yeah,
if you're looking for a coach, like, it doesn't need to be, a 32-year-old that has this new offensive style of play that's going to brand the NFL for the next 5 years. It could also be this 45, 50-year-old man that has, knows how to be a leader of men, like John Harbaugh. I think he's truly one of the best in the NFL at what he does in terms of leading and getting this team ready every single week. He's been as consistent as anyone outside of Mike Tomlin for the last decade. So anyways, let's go over to the defensive side of the ball for Baltimore here, and then we'll make our picks. The defense, like you said, this has been branded as a defensive football club for basically as long as I can remember. I kind of trace my real true football roots back to about 1997. And at that point in time, that was when Baltimore was starting to build this kind of not just defense, but like angry, like murder, like,
I mean, that
degree
was it 2001.
That was, I think it's 2001 Super Bowl, so it would have been 2000
the Trent Dilfer Super Bowl.
Yes. I remember watching that in the theater. It was amazing.
I mean, you look back at the numbers from that year, where I think there was a time where there was I remember this specifically. There was a 5-game stretch. Now, I shouldn't say I remember this specifically, but I've consumed enough football content to remember the specific stat. There was a 5-game stretch in that 2000 year where the offense didn't score more than 10 points in any of those games. But the Ravens went 2-3. So it's one of those things where that defense fierce. I mean, obviously a little big name, but so many other guys were contributing to that. And since then, I've always just thought of Baltimore as this stout defense. It's been branded that way, like you said. And so, I mean, this defense it's not like 2000 Baltimore Ravens, but it is, I think there's a lot of big names on this group. And whether it's been doing draft stuff over the years and you got, oh yeah, that was a name from that draft, things like that. Or it's like a Calais Campbell, where been around and been a beast, been a monster for a while. And then the Marlon Humphrey, you got that kind of shutdown corner, that vibe on the outside. So there's big names, there's kind of new names that have talent, and it's a lot of guys there. And it's a tall task again for the Vikings offense here.
Absolutely. So you look at the way and style of play for this defense. First and foremost, this is a 3-4 unit. So you're going to get some multiple fronts. You're going to get different packages. You're going to get different looks. You're going to get different pass rushers. And it all kind of starts with Brandon Williams at the nose tackle position. He's the true nose tackle in every sense of the term, where he's going to take up blockers. He's going to clear space, and that's going to open up gaps for guys like Calais Campbell, also Pernell McPhee and Justin Houston, well past their prime. I think both of them would agree with me saying that, but still, advantageous pass rushers that know what they're doing, and they're able to get around that, an inexperienced offensive tackle, which the Vikings have. I think O'Neal has established himself as a bit of a low end veteran at this point, but still a young player. And of course, Christian Darrisaw on the other side, you're playing with fire going against guys like Justin Houston, Pernell McPhee, guys who have been around the block. In addition to that, the second level, Patrick Queen, of course, everyone remembers from LSU. It's a big name, like you were saying, where he's kind of got that draft pedigree, where we remember him just based off of that. been solid. Same can be said for Tyus Bowser as well. Solid, solid linebacker at that level as well. And then lastly, really on the secondary, I think this is kind of the weakest unit for Baltimore, at least at this point in time, with Marcus Peters being out, other injuries at positions out there as well. It comes down to Marlon Humphrey, who remains one of the best in the business in terms of locking down one individual player. Does he have his moments? Absolutely. Do I think there's an opportunity for a fun moment for the Vikings if they decide that they, want to go over the top? Justin Jefferson and Marlon Humphrey on the outside that could be a lot of fun to watch. And definitely, premier young matchup and something that you could be seeing for multiple years in the NFL here. But ultimately, it really comes down to him on the back end, but they don't need to be as efficient in their secondary because their pass rush can get home with 3-4 guys and then dropping back into coverage and playing zone. Right. So they're very creative defensively as well. Advantageous defense. Of course, Marcus Peters isn't there, but they still have that tone where they will go after, ball hawking defense. They will try to jump routes, that type of thing. So always got to keep your eye on guys like Marlon Humphrey in the secondary and these tackling machines like Patrick Queen in the middle.
Yeah. I mean, looking at the numbers here, right? Actually, believe it or not, the Ravens are the worst team in the league in terms of passing yards allowed. Now,
that doesn't shock me. Honestly.
Aggregate numbers are one thing. Like, I don't think that dictates everything, but like, you just think back to like Joe Burrow putting up 400 some yards on the Ravens a couple weeks ago, and Bengals going in there and winning that game. So it was, and a lot of that was just because Joe Burrow found ways to beat them through the air, and so I think that's going to be sort of the way to do this is, we harp on it every single week, but the weakest link here, secondary, let Kirk Cousins cook is kind of what we're trying to get at. We say it every single week. Vikings seem to not want to do that, but I do think there's a path to winning this game, and it is taking advantage of the secondary that is 28th in the league in net yards per attempt allowed. That is, to me, the method of success here. The Vikings have the skill players for it. They have the quarterback for it. And they can certainly at least try to match up with the scoring that the Ravens will certainly be doing. So, again, it just depends on how aggressive the Vikings want to be. But obviously, they haven't really shown that here recently.
That really is all it comes down to, right? Like, you just identified a very explicit weak point. It's in the numbers. It's also in the name as well. You can throw away from Marlon Humphrey. He's one guy. He can shut down one side of the field. Sure.
You have two, elite players on the outside at receiver.
Right. We can't cover both.
Justin Jefferson better get more than 4 targets in this game.
You would sure hope so, especially if, they do have, Humphrey travel around or move to the inside with Adam Thielen or whatever. Basically, whoever Humphrey's not on, if you like that one-on-one matchup, right? So, I would throw the ball. I don't think the Vikings are going to. In terms of what I think they're going to do, I think they're going to do the same thing that they've been doing all season long and try to establish the run early, not go away from it.
You think with the seats warming up a little bit, maybe things change, but I don't know. We'll see.
I kind of feel like Mike Zimmer is the type of dude who's going to go down with his ship, right? Like, I don't think he's the type of guy that's going to change. He's going to continue to be a great defensive. We never said that he wasn't, right?
Yeah.
He's going to continue to be innovative defensively, but
the Vikings are just weird enough to win this game too. It's like last year they went to Lambeau and won. I'm never going to say, and with this team, I will never say they will not win this game. I'm going to say they probably won't win this game. And that's how I feel about this one.
Well, that is probably a good segue into our picks here. So I'm also going to go Baltimore in this one. I can't confidently pick Minnesota after what I saw last week. Let's just be real here.
Right.
Baltimore, in addition to the fact that the Vikings are not playing quality philosophical football right now, like it's just not winning football. You're also going up against a team that is just so dangerous offensively. Takes advantage of opportunities defensively, very well coached. And of course you got Justin Tucker as well. So if you need a big kick, you got it. You got 3 points, no doubt. So I don't see a road to the Vikings. And you play on the road, no Danielle Hunter, potentially no Anthony Barr. There's so many things working against the Vikings here. The best thing for the Vikings is they are super underdogs. And maybe they do take advantage of that fact that no one thinks the Vikings can win this game. I'm definitely one of those people. I think we're 2-0 there. Baltimore all the way this weekend. Hey, I'm hoping for the Vikings to prove me wrong. And honestly, this is the type of situation where they normally do. Like, you're right. they are just weird enough to compete with this team. And if they get that turnover, I don't think it's going to happen. But if they do, there's an opportunity there. I don't think this is a true blowout. I just don't think that there's a way the Vikings ultimately win on the scoreboard.
Yeah, I just don't see. I do think it could be one of like, again, the Vikings play every game close, or they're always kind of around. So
love that, by the way. That makes every Sunday interesting.
Which is entertaining. So I'm sure we'll be sitting there in the fourth quarter in the final 6 minutes, and the Vikings will, in theory, have a chance to win. But I'm going to pick the Ravens too.
Absolutely. All right. So Ravens for the both of us to kick it off here. That leads us to our Thursday night matchup. The Jets and the Colts. The Jets won last week, so we have to give them their time of day. Indianapolis also had an opportunity to win last week, and it looks like Carson Wentz is about the most fun roller coaster in the NFL. He can give you the win that you need to give you the opportunity you need and take it away from you in the same breath. So the Jets have it in them to get another upset victory.
Mike White was nice last week.
He's in the Hall of Fame, by the way.
I'm not buying. I'm not buying it yet. I'm going to go with the Colts here because I do think the Colts are playing well. And if
I do too.
If Wentz doesn't make two of the worst interceptions of the year last week, they win that game against Tennessee, who's been rolling. So I'm going to take the Colts here. I still think that they're a solid team. I think they're probably a little bit better than their record says. And I don't know if I can say that about the Jets. I want to say that, the wins have been fluky because they've beaten two good teams, but I just don't see it as a reliable, source of success yet.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's fair. And Jonathan Taylor angling towards being one of the better running backs in the NFL right now, as consistent as anyone. It just basically comes down to the shoulders of Carson Wentz. And can you beat Mike White? I don't know how we're even having this discussion.
I didn't know who Mike White was.
I didn't either.
10 days ago. Never heard of it.
So I'm going to bet that he can't double down. I'm going Indianapolis as well. They get it done at home at Lucas Oil. Next one here, we got a AFC matchup between the Cleveland Browns and Cincinnati Bengals. Of course, this one gives you an opportunity here to kind of decide the division somewhere down the road. A bitter rivalry in Ohio. Joe Burrow matches up with, I believe it's going to be Baker Mayfield. You got the Odell Beckham stuff going on. Does Cleveland get the better of Cincinnati here, or is Burrow and co ready to take over that division? They lost.
I know. I'm going to go Cincinnati bounce back here. But for whatever it is, man, I mean, Kevin Stefanski is kind of developing a history for pissing off talented wide receivers. So something to watch. Just saying.
Is
something
it him?
To watch. I don't know. It's just the common denominator between Diggs and Odell Beckham. It's there. It's just a thought. That's all.
I don't hate that. I'm sure someone will be digging into that because you can't be the only one who noticed that, right? I'm going Cincinnati as well. I think they bounce back. I think they're ready to take control of this division. Just because they have the win over Baltimore already. That's really that's the difference here. So I'm going to go Cincinnati here. Cleveland, I just don't know. I feel kind of bad for these guys. The whole situation with Baker's shoulder and so forth. It's rough. So
they should trade for Kirk.
God, I would love that. All right. Next one here is Denver and Dallas. Could be a matchup. I assume Dak's going to be back. Otherwise you get Cooper Rush. Does it matter?
We didn't. I mean, nobody anticipated anything until like Friday last week where it was like, oh, okay, I guess Dak might not play.
Right.
I'm going to go Dallas. I mean,
yeah.
Erring on the side of Dak playing. I mean, last week I picked Dallas, assuming Dak would play. I thought about changing the pick, but I mean, whatever. I'm still going the Cowboys. I don't think the Broncos are, that clearly that 3-0 start was a mirage. So give me Dallas.
And of course, they just moved Von Miller as well. Arguably,
good point.
Their best passer. Well, definitely their best passer. Arguably their most talented defensive player. I'm going Dallas too. I don't really care if it's Cooper Rush. To be honest, I think that Dallas is just a more complete football team. I mean, they beat the Vikings with Cooper Rush last week. I think the Vikings are better than Denver. Kind of. I think that. So Dallas gets the W. We'll roll with that together as well. Next one here is Houston and Miami. Hard one to pick, man. I mean, these are two teams that are kind of heading in that fire your coach and start over direction. So who gets it done this weekend? Is it going to be Tua, or is it going to be the man with the largest neck I've ever seen?
Yeah, I'm going Miami. But I don't like to pick. I don't know. I hate this game. I hate it. I'm going with Miami though.
Yep, I hate it as well. I'm going to go Miami. I both these teams suck, right? That wouldn't be fun to watch either. I'm going to take Miami too. I think they're the better, more complete roster, and I also think they're better coached. So, all right, let's go Miami at home. Next one here is Atlanta and New Orleans. Of course, New Orleans just lost Jameis Winston for the season. They still won against Tom Brady in Tampa Bay. Despite that, defense looks really nice. This week, they'll have to face off against Atlanta, whose offense just lost Calvin Ridley. Of course, Michael Thomas has been declared out for the year. A lot of news between these two teams, honestly. Who is able to kind of mitigate disaster better this week?
Yeah, so I kind of need to give Sean Payton some credit here, and I hate doing that, but I kind of thought that they would be I really thought this team would kind of fall off the cliff here and decline, with the Drew Brees retirement and, Jameis Winston taking over and kind of their really dreadful salary cap situation and kind of losing some players. I didn't think I thought this would be kind of the start of that. They're off to a 5-2 start. They just beat the Super Bowl defending champions. Mm-hmm. I like the Saints. I think they're a gritty enough team. And again, they've lost at home to the Giants and things like that, but they have a couple of very impressive wins. So I'm going to take New Orleans.
Yeah, I'm also taking New Orleans. I think that they're easier to kind of have to bet on, right? Like they have more things that you can be confident in at this juncture.
Sean you really can't be confident in anything at Atlanta right now. I mean,
exactly.
You never really know what they're going to do every Sunday. Whereas, the Saints, it's a little bit more consistent and trustworthy.
Agreed. So we'll roll New Orleans to the both of us there, moving us to Las Vegas and the New York Giants. Of course, Vegas, geez, my God. Must be a rough year to be a Raiders fan. First, John Gruden, now you have the Henry Ruggs situation that developed as of this recording about 24 hours ago. So,
yeah.
Condolences to everyone in that situation. You got a loss of life. You've got a ruined life. I mean, no one wins. So that really sucks. Las Vegas is going to look to find a way to get a W here, despite that storm clouding the week against the Giants here. Giants look pretty good against Kansas City. I guess I don't really know. Did they look good? I think they look good because they're competing.
We don't know.
I don't know how good Kansas City is.
Yeah, nobody knows how good the Chiefs are. I mean, if they were truly the same Kansas City, they would have, clowned the Giants.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the Raiders. I don't love it. I know there's the numbers out there of Daniel Jones is just way worse at home than on the road, which is kind of different.
Hilarious. Yeah.
But that's kind of my main reason for picking the Raiders here. Honestly, if it was the other way around, I would probably take the Giants on the road. But this is in New Jersey, so I'm going Raiders.
Yeah, I'm going to take Vegas. I believe this team rebounded when they lost Gruden, and they kind of had that media storm going on. This one is not as big of a media storm. Obviously, this one sucks just as much, but I think that they'll be able to weather it. They did a great. I mean, this guy, this interim coach, was it Rich Sashia? I don't know if I'm butchering his last name.
It's something. Yeah, I mean, I know it seems like the team's rallying around this guy. I
like him a lot.
Yeah,
I like him a lot. He's very quotable. He seems very dependable, and he knows what he's doing. So I'm going to take Vegas to weather the storm and get a W over the Giants on the road. Next one here: New England versus Carolina. Now, Carolina, I don't know who the hell this team is either. I mean, they fall right in with the Philadelphia Eagles and Minnesota Vikings. I don't know who you are.
It sounds like PJ Walker is planning to start at quarterback.
I like that.
So XFL. I think it's because Darnold is concussion protocol or something like that right now. So PJ Walker's taking the first team reps.
Oh, I think they could win, man. He's good. He's not bad.
I want to take Carolina. I'm not going to do that yet. I'm going with New England. I think that's a safer pick, although very excited to see what PJ Walker can do if he indeed does start.
I'm on the fence here. I'm going to take Carolina. I like PJ Walker, Stephon Gilmore revenge game, of course. I'm going to roll with it. Carolina's coming off a really nice defensive performance. I'm going to take him here. Give him the opportunity. So we'll split on that one. Moving us to Buffalo and Jacksonville, which I don't believe we need to talk about.
No.
Buffalo for the both of us, and we'll move forward to the Chargers and the Philadelphia Eagles, a matchup between two teams that I don't know who the hell either of you are. So very confused.
I'm not going to be convinced by any team beating the Lions. So I'll go Chargers for now, but I do think this is going to be another just super weird game. I mean, we've seen the Eagles this year get super weird in fourth quarters where things get kind of crazy. Same
Yeah.
thing with the Chargers over the years. I mean, that's a pretty common thing for them. So I'll take the Chargers though.
I'm going Chargers for a couple of reasons. Number one, they operate under more than just one player offensively. It's not just one guy that runs 81% of their offense like Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia. And number two, the guy that is in charge of the majority of the offensive share, Justin Herbert, is the better of the two players. So I'm going to take the Chargers here pretty confidently. But again, I don't know who the Chargers are, and I really don't know who the Eagles are either yet. So next one here is Green Bay and Kansas City, and this one is hilarious, folks. It had the billing to be a premier matchup between Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes, but as of this recording, November 3rd, 6:20 p.m., Aaron Rodgers is ruled out for this game due to COVID protocol. He apparently lied to us all about being vaccinated, which is unreal.
That is so.
He tricked us. He didn't even lie.
I've been a big Rodgers person. The listeners know this.
Yeah.
And so part of me now, again, the vaccination thing, like getting vaccinated, obviously I'm pro-vaccine as far as this goes, but it's like, in a way, I respect the heck out of his, like, I don't care. Like he knows he has, like, he can do basically whatever he wants because of how things have gone over the summer and things like that. So he's kind of like, he just doesn't care. I mean, that's what it comes down to. He doesn't care. And he knows he has enough like support around him in the locker room right now where he can miss this game and the team's going to be okay with it. They're going to come back and support him, especially probably if Jordan Love doesn't show up, especially that's going to be the case.
Oh, I was thinking the complete inverse. What if Jordan Love wins and takes advantage of the Chiefs right now?
Well, there's that too. There's that element, but unbelievable. And the other thing we should discuss this is like the NFL they've been talking a lot of talk about, enforcing COVID protocols and things like that. And there's always been, you see on the sidelines, the guys who are reportedly unvaxxed on the Vikings, you kind of see it. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, are they supposed to have a mask on now? Whatever, and you never hear anything about it. Now it sounds like I saw a statement from the NFL, like they're going to look into the protocols and stuff from Green Bay. I'm curious to see how this goes down, because if the NFL is truly going to be this, this big enforcer on these rules, are they going to come down hard on the Packers of all franchises? And is Aaron Rodgers like hurting his team where it comes down to punishment? It comes down to a big fine. It comes down to draft picks being lost just because their quarterback just doesn't care. Like that would be a little bit funny to me. So I think all that aside, I'm going to go with the Chiefs because I've never seen Jordan Love play, but
exactly,
I'm entertained by all of it. And it's clearly, we should also, the Packers have some COVID going on in the team. They got guys testing pot. Yeah. So I'll go with the Chiefs though.
I'm going to take the Chiefs as well. I can't bet on Jordan Love against Patrick Mahomes. That'd be blasphemous, right? So I'll take the Chiefs. The one thing I will say about Rodgers is I think it's so funny that he didn't lie. He just tricked all of us. He did not
explicitly lie.
He did not. He deceived us like an asshole. Like that's very rude of him.
Yeah.
But he didn't lie. Like he said, I have been immunized. And I think he must have done some sort of like
he totally knew this was coming. Like you could tell he's thinking about this like days in advance, knowing he was going to meet with the media that day. I think this was back in August, and he's like, "All right, here's how I'm going to answer this, and I'm going to get away with it."
Oh, this was planned.
And he totally had. Everybody knew or thought, yeah, he's vaxxed totally, just because he never had a mask on, never associated himself with one, and he was being supportive of like. When you say I've been immunized, like that's kind of the.
That's what I would think.
In the context of the conversation, it's like, okay, this is a COVID vaccinated person. Unbelievable. The content's great. It's nice to have, for once, the Packers be kind of in that weird spotlight of things where it's usually the Vikings that have something stupid going on. It's finally the Packers, and it's fun.
Here's the one thing that I want to say before we move past this. I love this, first of all, but I made the joke earlier, and I do want to say that this is a joke. But like, is this not like on par with what Ontario Smith did with the Wizinator? That like trying to bypass protocol in order to play the way that you want to play? Is it not the same? Like, are we not on the same playing field? Basically, I know that one's taking a drug and one is not taking a drug, not taking a drug. But is it not like on the same plane? Like, should Rodgers not be suspended for trying to elude protocol?
It's
a joke, right? Like, I'm not actually advocating for it.
I know, but it's just there's. That's why I'm curious about how hard the league's going to come down on this. Because if he truly,
I'm very curious.
If he truly did like very egregiously and very clearly, like
nonchalantly
dodge these protocols in a deceitful way, then there should be a lot of punishment here. And I don't know what the NFL has set forth in terms of like, here's what we're going to do to punish you if you violate these, whatever. I'm not 100% sure on that. And I'm sure it's written down somewhere, but I mean, if the NFL is to be respected, they do come down hard on this, right?
I would think so. I mean, what happened with Lyle Collins when he tried to, get his way out of a drug test and, threatened someone or whatever? That's, again, not the same thing, but there's some I don't know, whatever. We're doing picks, but hilarious situation. I'm glad we got a chance to talk about that a little bit. All right, next one here, back to business. Arizona lost to Green Bay last week. They head out on the road against San Francisco. Do they get back on track, or do they lose to their division rival?
I got the Niners. Niners look okay.
They can run the ball for sure. Elijah Mitchell, but he didn't practice today.
I think, and that was played them tough last time. I'm not a believer in the Cardinals and the Niners. I think they do enough things creatively, and I think they have enough to do it here.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Cardinals to make the comeback. I don't think they looked bad last week. I do think that they, probably should have taken advantage of a situation where they didn't have to face Devontae Adams. That being said, I mean, Green Bay, not a bad football team to lose to if you're going to lose one, right? I mean, I guess it is a bad one just from the precedent that now you are kind of in trouble in that way, right? Like you lose to an NFC top tier team, but again, very competitive matchup. I think that Arizona is still very good. I'm curious if Kyler Murray's going to be out or not, because if he's out, that changes things dramatically.
Colt McCoy.
Screw this. I'm going with San Francisco too. If it's Colt,
all I said was Colt McCoy, and that was enough.
I can't. There's no way. There's no way, man. There's no way. I'm going San Francisco too. I think Arizona's the better team if Kyler Murray's starting, but I don't think he's going to start. So I'm going San Francisco. All right. Last two here, Tennessee and the Los Angeles Rams. That's Sunday Night Football. That should be a good one. Matthew Stafford leading it in. No Derrick Henry though. That sucks.
Yeah. I'm going to be a little bit different here and take the Titans. I think in a way it will help the Titans. I'm not advocating the Titans are better without Derrick Henry, but I think freeing up Tannehill a little bit more will actually kind of surprisingly benefit him. So I'm going to go with Tennessee here, and I don't really know how they're going to stop the Rams because that defense is pretty darn bad, but it's just, I think they win a shootout.
It would definitely be a fun one for sure. I'm going to go with the Rams here. I think that losing Derrick Henry, trying to just figure out what to do without him in 1 week. I think Jeremy McNichols will factor into that. I hope we get to see Adrian Peterson. That'd be fun.
By the way, jersey number 8, it looks like, which is very different. I believe McNichols is already 28. So that's going to be very confusing for me when I watch this game and I see 28 in the backfield and knowing Peterson's on the team and it's not him. I don't know. We'll see. I can't imagine Peterson is still effective, but we'll see. He's proven me wrong before.
Yeah, he's been getting the last 2 stops that he's had. I think he had 1,000-yard season. Yeah. What was that with Washington randomly? I don't know.
I saw a stat the other day that he has more 15-yard rushes in the since 2018 than Christian McCaffrey.
Really? Interesting. All right. Well, I will split on that one here. Los Angeles for me, Tennessee for Drew, and brings us to our Monday night matchup: the Chicago Bears, Justin Fields, who still struggling as a passer, but it seems like he's picking up the game speed a little bit, starting to figure things out a little bit. He had that highlight reel run, of course. I think his pocket presence is improving, but Pittsburgh may be the best, one of the best defenses in the NFL, and definitely one of the best pass rushers. And TJ Watt will be coming after him. Who gets it done?
Yeah, I got Steelers.
Yeah.
That's just I think this will be kind of a rude awakening for Fields. Awakening. I mean, you're a rookie.
Yep.
You're playing on prime time against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think Pittsburgh's going to have the big advantage there.
Yeah, I'm going Pittsburgh as well. I think Chicago sucks. I think the Vikings are the clear number 2 team in the NFC North.
Which is nothing to be proud of, but yeah.
It is what it is. All right, so Pittsburgh for both of us. That rounds out our picks for the week. And as status update here, I think I had the worst week of picks that I ever had in the 5 years that we've been doing this. I went 5-10 last week.
That's tough to do.
That is tough, right? Cumulatively 78-44. You went 7-8. You didn't fare a whole lot better than me, but you did gain a little bit of ground. And then you got the money week pick as well. Green Bay cashing for you. Detroit, not for me. So if we're counting at this point in time, I lose 4 points. You get 4 on addition to that, and that would give me a 3-point advantage heading into this next week of play here. So that's where we stand through 8 weeks into week 9 of the NFL season. All right, is there anything that we missed before we get out of here? Anything we didn't talk about that you want to talk about?
The other thing is, I guess I want to mention Mike Zimmer bringing all these stats to the press conference today, as if that was gonna cool the seat a little bit. Like, I don't know. Great. I'm happy for all the stats that you've got. Like,
you still suck.
I mean, yeah, it's you're not just losing these games by chance. Like, we've talked about how luck has played a little bit into it with those first
Everyone
couple of
hated
weeks.
that, by the way, too. Yeah,
I get it, but looking at at least the last 4 games, the conservative play is in the last 5 minutes of the game, the fourth quarter. Really, the stats don't matter if that's how you close games. So I don't know. It's whatever. I don't like that he went that route.
It's petty for sure. Definitely felt like a direct response to Chris Thomason, just knowing that Thomason.
I think it was just like he's like, I don't know if he thought that was going to get people to buy it back into kind of his philosophies, or I don't know. But you're 3-4, you're barely over 500 in totality. So as it pertains to, like, I'm looking specifically at the Cousins era, but it's still, in general, it's just not. It's you better start winning some games. That's all I'm saying.
Definitely. One thing I want to ask you real quick before we get out of here: if Mike Zimmer and the Vikings are able to get a W over Baltimore, does this cool things down a little bit, or do we still remember what happened last week against Dallas?
And I mean, obviously, winning games is better than losing. That's like the Trent Dilfer quote from ESPN, whatever, a couple years ago, and he was like, "You can't lose games in the NFL and still win." I mean, but I would still be stuck on that loss, because in the grand scheme of things, you can't lose to a backup quarterback who's starting his first game at home in your stadium that's rocking, right? So, and there's just, the team is missing so many opportunities because of the way they manage things. You win this game, sure. I need to believe that they can compete for a championship, really, before I'm kind of off of the fire Zimmer movement, so to speak. So that seems like a lot has to happen for that. And I'm not saying it can't. They can certainly go on a winning streak here and things are turned around. I just think a lot has to happen before I get to that point.
Opportunity is there. I will say that. Of course, you got Baltimore Chargers in the coming weeks, and then of course you finish up with Green Bay at the end of this month. There's an opportunity to get right back on this, right back on it here. Does not bode well for them that they lost to Dallas and a backup quarterback. But if you start beating good teams over the next 3 weeks, I mean, people have a week-to-week mindset in the NFL. You can forget things real quick if things start looking good. You blow out the Ravens, people start to forget. If you don't, things can get worse real quick. So we'll see what happens. You guys know what side we're on for this matchup, but hopefully your Vikings can, find a way to pull through here and get back to that 500 mark. And if they don't, we'll still be back here to discuss it. You can find the podcast, of course, on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, wherever else you listen to your podcast. If you prefer to watch us talk about the Vikings, you can find us on YouTube. Make sure to check out the rest of the Climbing the Pocket Network shows 5 days a week, live shows, podcasts, a lot of different content, creators. So if you don't like us, you might like them. And then lastly, make sure to check us out on Daily Norseman and the rest of the written content on there that keeps you updated on the purple and gold throughout the week. So with all that being said, thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch you next week.